Hi, welcome to my shop on this fine Super Bowl Sunday morning. Since it's Super Bowl time, I thought what better project to start would be a football-shaped charcuterie board. I've had this template for a long time. It'll be the first time using it. And also, if you didn't have that, Woodcraft does have a template that you could use. In my case, I'm going to start with some cut-offs of walnut, which I had on a previous project, which I think will be enough. And the size of this template is about 15 by 9.5. So I'll cut these boards to fit this, and then we'll get started. By the time I post this video, Super Bowl will be long finished. So hopefully your team won.
At this point, my microphone stopped working, but here I have cut the boards to size to fit the template. After that, I'm going to start to glue up, as you can see in the video.
It's been clamped now for a little over an hour, so now we can remove the board from the clamps. I'll just scrape off some of the excess glue. Wasn't too much. And then we'll let the glue set for a bit longer, and then we'll plane the board and get ready to apply the pattern. For the next step, I'm just going to sand one side smooth and then pass it through the planer. Now both sides sanded smooth. Now we'll just figure out the pattern. Be something like this. Make sure I got enough everywhere. Then I can mark this. I'm not going to actually use the patterns. I'm just going to make some straight lines for the stripes. And then for the string, I'm just going to use this template. So for starters, I'm going to just cut this board nice and straight. And then we could use the router or the table saw to make some dados. So I've cut each end now. So now I'll have to figure out the center. And then I think this will be just straight 1-inch dados that I'll then put an inlay of maple to give the contrast. So we can measure this. So it's about 15.25. So 7.5 plus 1/8, that would be about the center. Actually, so from the edge here, I guess I have about 2.25. 2.25. So as I said, we can either do it with a router by hand or with a dado stack or just a blade with several passes to make this dado. And then in my case, I'll probably set up the router table. So I'll do that next. Do about a 1-inch wide dado, maybe just a little bit less. So we'll go with that. So I'll go set up that now on the router table. I set up the router fence in order to do the dado about 2.25 from the edge, and it's about 5/16 of an inch deep. So I did a test cut with this. Now I'm ready to do the cut with the walnut. Next, I'll move the fence out just a little bit in order to make the groove around 1 inch. So here's the two dados, roughly 1 inch and 5/16 inch deep. Now I can go ahead and do outside the line the cut with the bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can use a jigsaw. We'll do that next, and then after I'll put the pattern on with a pattern bit with the router to get it closer to the shape. If you don't have that, I guess you could sand it the best you can to the line. So now I'll start to cut with the bandsaw. Again, you could use a jigsaw if you don't have the bandsaw. So as you can see, I cut well outside the line that I had traced. So now I can, with double-sided tape, attach this to the walnut, and then we can go and use a pattern bit on the router table to get it exactly to the template. So I'll set up the router table now. So first step is to attach the template to the walnut piece with lots of two-way tape. Okay, so now I'll carefully place template. And next we'll go to the router table. So I have the pattern bit set in the router table. I have this set with the bearing to the height of the thickness of the board. And so now I think we're just ready to go. So here's the piece. Following the pattern, looks pretty good. Next we can remove this, as I do not plan on putting it. I'm going to put it in the center for the strings. Now we're going to transfer this pattern onto the board using some carbon paper. Just make sure I get the center here. I think this should be about center. pretty good. So we'll just trace this pattern. I think it looks okay. I'll just redo it with a pencil. So I have a profile bit set to about 3/16 of an inch and have this plate, which I bought from makeawoodside.com. They sell both plates and router bits for various routers, and they have lots of videos if you're interested. So I'll get started with this. So I finished the routing for the string on the football. We'll be filling that up with some epoxy with some white dye. I also cut 2 strips for the stripes. They fit in there nice and snug. So we'll be gluing those in shortly. Once they're glued in, then I'll trim it to size. So I'll start next with the epoxy. So I'll use some of this epoxy. It's 1-to-1 ratio. I'll start with the epoxy itself. I'm not sure exactly how much I'll need, but I'm sure I'm going to be pouring way too much, but so one of these. And always make sure you don't mix up the caps. Okay. Equal part of the hardener. Thinking maybe I'll need more than that. So. Just mix it up. Hopefully that's more than enough, but then I'll add some white dye. This stuff is very thick. So I mixed some of this tabletop epoxy. It was 1-to-1 mix, as I mentioned. And then put some of this white dye. Probably have more than I need, but now I'll just pour it where the laces are. As mentioned, certainly did way too much. So now we'll just let this harden overnight and we'll see what it looks like. So I guess it'd be a good time to glue in the strips. That way everything will be ready tomorrow. So we'll leave this overnight and tomorrow get ready to sand it all down and shape it to final size on these stripes. After a day, the epoxy is nice and hard. I'll start by trimming the maple with the router table and the pattern bit, and then we'll sand. So now ready to sand the maple and the epoxy. So I've sanded it, starting with 80 grit and 120 and then 220, both sides. So now I'm going to use a round over bit for rounding off the edges. So there it is, all sanded, rounded. Next step will be to apply mineral oil. So I'm using this food grade mineral oil, which I bought on Amazon. So I'll let this soak in for a little bit and do at least one more coat. So here it is after 2 coats of the food grade mineral oil. Now the last step is I'll just add these rubber feet to the bottom. I think the placement is not too bad. These did come with some stainless steel screws. Here it is with the rubber feet installed and the finished product. Now this concludes the video of making this football shaped charcuterie board. I think it was fairly easy. Just takes a little time for the epoxy to dry, but other than that, pretty quick project. Hope you enjoyed and hope to see you again soon. Take care.